Hello, boys. This is Dr. Infinity. Welcome to the Trough. This week, I got two books for you. I got Citadel of the Seven Swords. This is book one of Scarred, the Wandering Sword. And I have the second issue of Anvil, the Iron Age magazine, which is like an anthology.
While you're there, I can hear you breathing. Don't you listen to these nitwits, you hear me? This place ain't so bad.
I want to go home. I want my mother. I ain't supposed to be here. Not me.
Anyways, I liked both these books. and we're going to talk about them. First off, I want to say sorry there was not an upload last weekend. I was going to have this video done on like Sunday, and some stuff came up, and sorry. I also checked out some other media, a comic and a little anime series. I'm going to talk about those at the end. So those are not recommendations. So unfortunately, I just didn't have anything. And for the upcoming week, like this upcoming weekend, I probably won't have anything because I'm in the middle of like doing like two novels and like two smaller things, and I want to do a Trough video on those, and I doubt I'll get all those done in time. And I started like this longer TV series, which hopefully will be good, but I doubt I'll have a video on it for probably a week or two. Anyways, going to talk about these two things. I'm going to talk about Citadel of the Seven Swords first, but since these are both recommendations, I have links for you to purchase them all below. Eric Wag one. This is more of a just sword and sorcery, kind of high adventure book. It's kind of like Conan. I liked it. I definitely want to read more by this author. He actually has a little story in this issue of Anvil as well. So that was nice because it follows the same character. So we'll talk about that. But yeah, before like getting into spoilers, if you're interested in like, yeah, just sword and sorcery, it's good stuff. You know, it's Conan-esque. You know, I liked it. I haven't read out all the Conan stuff, but I've liked what I've read. That's like $14 on Amazon. And if you're interested in Anvil, you can go their website, and it's like $15 for a digital version and then like $25 for the physical. I think the physical is good. Like it's a nice quality, like magazine. It's nice. But yeah, and you can also buy like the first Anvil magazine if you want as well. Anyways, I have timestamps below if you just want to hop ahead to the Anvil stuff. Otherwise, I'm just going to hop right into Citadel of the Seven Swords. Citadel of the Seven Swords. This starts with Scarred. Scarred is a northern warrior, kind of barbarian man who has been captured by these people, and he's forced to row on this slave ship, and we don't really know who his captors are. They talk about something called the Iron Brotherhood, right? But we don't really know what's their destination, what's going to happen to them. But it's pretty terrible conditions. He makes one kind of friend who rows along with him on the ship. His name's Morris. And when his friend Morris is killed, he's angered. You know, he swears revenge. He's going to escape. He's going to get out of here. And that was nice. I don't know. Like, I don't know if I would say like gray morality or like overly complicated, where it's like you can make characters so gray that they're just horrible people. And you don't really give a shit what happens to them. But Scarred's a good guy. And eventually their ship reaches this island, right, where we reach this island, and Scarred sees a chance to escape, and he takes it. So he takes off. He's in the jungle. He is pursued by some slavers, and he gets into a few fights, and this goes on for a little bit. And like, if you really like action scenes, this is great for that. This has good action scenes, and he like comments on like the swords that they have are like higher quality than typical than you would like usually expect from like pirates or marauders, right? He ends up getting captured, right? So then he's brought before the master or the wizard. And I really like this guy. This is Gol Zagar. I'm probably not pronouncing that right, but oh well. This is Gol Zagar, and he's just this mysterious man. He just sits on this throne. He's really cool. He has just kind of this ominous good presence. It's very impactful. There's not a ton about him, but like what there is, it's good. You always want to know more about him, right? And we also get introduced to Sulme or Sulmi. She's this beautiful, mysterious woman, kind of a temptress, and she takes an interest in Scarred, and we don't know exactly what she wants. She wants him to live, and he doesn't really understand why. And he ends up being like forced into this duel with another guy because one of the captors he killed in the jungle was the brother to this man. I had in my notes for page 68. Oh yeah, Scarred has like a joking manner to him. It's not overdone. I think it's good. It's she wants me to live, he whispered to himself, weighing his own words. Why? Because I am handsome? True, he nodded sagely. It's done well with Scarred where he has like this wit to him, but it's not like always on, and I'll cover that in a little bit. But he has some good like little barbs, funny moments here and there. But Scarred ends up winning his duel, and he gets inducted into the Iron Brotherhood. Otherwise, he would just be killed. And we don't know a ton about what the Iron Brotherhood wants or what they're doing. We hear about some prison guards. This one named Pegleg has sent this old horse master Belgetti to like help Scarred, like bring him food. Belgetti's kind of sort of becoming his friend because he also wants to be free. He wants to return to his home, right? He's supposed to be, I guess, like something like a Mongolian. But on 84, this is after he's been brought into the Brotherhood, he ends up talking. The master speaks to them. He has this deep, powerful voice, and he has like a magic to it, right? These words have power over men. It's just summarized as the master speaking of chaos and the folly of men. He spoke of doom and destiny. They were on the cups of ruin, of barbarism and eternal darkness, and they were there to answer a call. And this just rallies the men. It also just kind of binds them to the master's will. But Scarred is able to shake away the master's power. He's not enchanted, he's not entranced like the other men are. We also get a little bit, this is like the only time we get in Sulmay's head, where she wants Scarred to help her be free, to be her champion, and she kind of has like a lot of lovers within the Iron Brotherhood. She's just trying to find like her best bet on getting herself out of her situation. We don't know exactly what her situation is. After all of Scarred's training, he thinks he's going to be like a corsair or like an infantryman, but he's sentenced to become a mine guard. And he gets a name like all the other mine guards have, and he is ever chained. While he meets a guy that he chopped off this dude's hands in the jungle, which I thought was like insane, like kind of like really extreme that guy lived in the first part of the book, when I'm like, all right, no hands is back. But we have another good bit of Scarred humor on 109. Scarred bowed, let us hope for the best and cross our fingers. No hands glared like death at him. Just little good moments like that, and they fit, they work in their scenes. And we find out, like, as he is this mine guard, that they're digging for this special metal. They're digging for the special metal, and this is used by the master for some greater purpose. We're in the jungle. There's like a volcano, right? But then Scarred starts hearing some rumbling, and some others hear it too, so he ends up following it down, and he ends up seeing a giant. This is like 133, 135, and this is just this giant, and Scarred is terrified. He's terrified at the sight of this. And I'm like, this is great. This isn't like Star Wars or Marvel or whatever modern movie where it's like Scarred can joke at the appropriate times. But in this scenario, you're like, holy shit, that's a fucking giant. I'm afraid. And that's good. That's good. And this giant is making these swords. He says the sixth blade is almost forged, and then it's almost complete. And Sulmay is also there, and she's like assisting the giant in creating these swords. And it's really interesting. The giant's name is Moore. A little later on, we have Sulmay's story on page 162, where she like traveled around a bit. She seems to be part of a whorehouse, and then she found some secret power within herself. And then she assisted the master and then in exchange for assisting him, she was instructed in the art of sorcery, right? So all this is happening. Scarred is still like, I need to get out of here, I need to escape, but he doesn't really see an option for it. One thing I will say on 165, and this is it's a smaller thing, but it is something that I found to be somewhat of a problem, is that whenever there's like a scene change or a passage of time, I think there should be an extra space between paragraphs. And that's not always the case, and like it's not a huge thing, but I think that's correct, or it's something I at least prefer, where it's like several hours have passed, do like an extra line break or something, right? You know, like a double space, I guess. Not, you know what I mean? Like normal paragraphs, you wouldn't have an extra space there, but I think if it's a passage of time, you would have that extra space. Because it's just 165, it's Soulmate and him, they're having sex, but then like we cut to hours later, but we're within that same paragraph, I believe. So I was a little confused there, but not a huge thing. And Soulmate's telling him all this stuff about the master. It's like, it's good stuff. Giant is like forging swords. There are going to be 7 swords overall. Or I don't know if it's going to be just 7, but they're working on the 7th sword and they bind like souls to the swords. Some of his ancient race, referring to Golzagar, once worked this metal, but it is beyond even his power to forge. He needs the heat of the deep earth for a hearth. And Soulmate acts as like a bellows to heat up forge to make this metal. Golzagar is like a very powerful people, from a like line of very powerful people, and I think he might be the last of his people. Yeah, and we get a little bit about all the swords. Like the first sword, he summoned the spirit of an enemy of his own from across the howling depths of time. It came not human, not anymore, but a loathsome thing, and he trapped it in the sword. And they also did this to like a prince that they captured for the 6th sword. And the 7th sword is going to be Soulmate. So they need to act fast to get her out of there. Otherwise, she's going to be bound to this sword. And it's like, that's really cool. One little thing I'll bring up where it's Scarred wants to escape and all that. And we know the master's like plotting to do stuff. He's like building an army. And like I know Scarred, obviously he's trapped down in the mines. He's not going to know like the full extent of the master's plan, but something I kind of wanted to know, it's like, okay, like is the master like, is this going to be like years away before they begin like their mission to like start, I guess, global dominance? Or like are they waiting like all 7 swords have been forged, now we will begin our conquest? Or we have the swords but we're still waiting a bit? I guess a sense of urgency from the master. I guess there are the swords and Soulmate will be killed, but I guess more of I would like to know a little bit more about Golzagar's like plans, like actual plans, like we're going to go attack this place first and then we're going to do that, or a little bit. It doesn't have to be super in depth, but I think I would have liked a little bit of it. And then their ultimate plan is to defeat Moore, to kill Moore, and Scarred ends up doing this, and he ends up trapping Moore's soul into the blade. So Scarred now has the 7th blade, and Soulmate has like this evil dagger thing, and she stabs Moore as well, and she seems to like drink some of Moore's power. And you're like, okay, that's interesting. And we have this nice final confrontation with Golzagar. He talks to Scarred a bit, about how petty and human and selfish he is, and that he offered him this great destiny, glory eternal in a world made paradise. That's what I offered you. And that the sword, you will wield it not. It is a blade that wields you, and you will gladly succumb to it. All interesting, good stuff, and then Golzagar sends like this rock golem thing to go fight him. And I don't know, I think it'd be kind of interesting if it pops up in later books, because it just kind of like abandons the chase. Everyone's like fleeing the island. On page 226, Soulmate says that Golzagar is probably already gone, and that his sanctum is not entirely of this earth, and when he closes its door, he may open it somewhere else. And no doubt he's already planning anew. It's like, that's good stuff, that's good. Where it's like, we'll just have this kind of, because I think it says in the back there's going to be more Scarred books. And they're like, cool, Towards the end, we get some more threads for later books where Soulmate is going to be going after places with Pegleg. She's like using the star map to go find stuff. And I'm like, that's interesting. And Scarred names his sword Moore's Fangsel, which means Moore's prison. That's awesome. And yeah, just overall, just like really solid sword and sorcery, like fantasy adventure stuff. I'm definitely intrigued for more books. Like I want more about Soulmate, who's becoming more and more powerful. I don't know what exactly she'll turn into. I'm curious about Scarred, goals are and like what his actual plans and what does that actually mean, like his vision for the world. Is it just like God Emperor of the world, or what exactly? And we still have those 6 magic swords in play. What's going to happen with them? So a lot of good, interesting threads set up. Yeah, I really like. I did have a few things. This is just something I call small scraps, so not big problems at all, but just like little editing or little other issues that I noticed. On page 22, at the bottom, he bounded at Scarred, his blade spinning. He brought another stroke down, but the Scarred skipped away. Should just be Scarred. Page 124. Meat, Gerard said, I haven't had a bit of meat between my teeth in a long while. Something to look forward to, but it's 2 with 2 O's. I think this is wrong. I'm also a moron, but I think this is not correct. In page 225, Scar turned and looked out where the old woman stared. Scarred, Belgadi said. Scarred seemed not to hear. Turning to Pegleg, he shook his head. The sight is awful and has rattled him. So I think we're referring to the old woman, but it should just be her, I think. Yeah, I think that's it. But that was like it for all of like the small scraps. So really not a lot. It was well edited. I didn't really see anything else. 100% want to read more from this. I'm definitely interested, and yeah, I'm really glad I finally got around to it. Next, we have Anvil magazine number 2. From this, it's an anthology. It's an anthology of like fantasy stuff. There's some reviews in there. There's 3 little comics, and it's kind of a creature feature thing for like Halloween, right? So that's Anvil 2. I already did a video on the first Anvil. You can check that out if you want. The stories I really liked in here were Blades Against Fear by Eric Wagg, who, we already talked about Eric Wagg, but he did the Citadel of the Seven Swords, and this also follows Scarred and Belgadi. This has to happen chronologically after the book, so there's that. I don't know if this is going to be like a chapter in a future sequel or something. Afflicted. This is about like there's this plague going on, and there's this woman who serves this like god of death and pestilence, and it's very interesting. I think this is really great. Corpse Fishers. This is one of the comics. Humans dive for pods to bring back new humans from the deep, but there's stuff going on in the deep. Those were my big picks. Those are like my big like wow. Ones. The others are pretty decent. There weren't any that I like hated, but now we're going to get into spoilers. So check out Anvil 2. That sounds all right. And yeah, we'll just hop right in. So Morning Light, this is our intro. This is our opening. And I thought this was fine. This was okay. There's like this man on this mountain who's mourning some men, and there's this like spooky wailing going on. Yeah, I thought this was fine. Blades Against Fear, I like this a lot. So we follow Scarred, we follow Belgadi. We have some nice little humorous moments. You don't have to know the book for this. You don't have to know the book for this. It's easy enough just to pick up for what it is, but it is nice, right? And they're fighting this ogre that's impersonating a merchant, and it lives on fear, and that's how it kills people, but Scarred is not afraid of it, so they're able to overcome. Prowler of Blah Square. This is also the cover art. The cover art is this story, and it's about this man, Dr. Sebastian. He's hired by this village to defeat this monster, and he's been tracking this creature for a while, but it's kind of confusing because when the story starts, you think he's very ignorant about the situation that he's being brought into. I'm a little confused about what he knows and doesn't know, because he seems to prepare for one monster, and then he's like going along with what the villagers are saying the monster's like, and then in reality the monster is this other beast, this Striga, and he already like knew what a Striga was because he's been tracking it. So I thought that was a little confusing, not like insane, but I'd read more about that. I would read more about this Dr. Sebastian and like his adventures, like just go around like Monster of the Week stuff. I like that stuff. Immortal Rising, this is a man battling a demon to save a girl's soul. This is just a little comic. I thought this was decent. Afflicted, one of my heavy hitters. This is one of my heavy hitters. I definitely want to include some art from this. This is about a woman who's been afflicted. She's Amelia, and she's an emissary of Skiolf, who like made a sacrifice, or like kind of made herself sick to this deity to save her husband. And there's a lot in this story. There's so much in this story where she would kind of hope that her husband would divorce her afterwards to avoid the shame of being like with her, because she now serves this dark entity. But I think they're still together and they still have a son, and like that's interesting as hell. I would definitely read more about this. And she can control like / rot things a little bit. Like she can communicate with like mice and like insects and shit like that. It's really good. And there's this balance with the church, and she's been hired to investigate this new plague that's going on, and no one knows what the hell's going on. And she's doing like these autopsies and everything, and it's gross. It's kind of like gross stuff, but it's good. It's well written. She can use like termites, from her hand to like instantly decay a wooden door. That's great. And also like she kind of communicates with her god. I think it's her god, with like mice. And by the end of it, we find out that it's a man-made plague, and she just wipes everyone out. So it's really cool. I've definitely really want to read more of this. Like if this was a book, or even if it's just a serial and it's just more of her adventures, I think that's great. Really great stuff. Shadowed Canal. This is a husband and wife are hired to find a monster that's been attacking some people, hiding in a canal, if you will, and likes the dark. And it turns out that it's this young abused boy, and they try to make the situation better for the boy at the end, because the kid's just like 10 years old. Thought that was fine. Corpse Fishers. So yeah, humans are diving for pods. They're bringing up new humans from the dark depths below. It's short. It's a little thing. I really like the art, and yeah, I'd read more if this is like a comic or whatever. Ghost of a Distant Star. This is like we're on this train. We have an enforcer who's kind of just law enforcement. And he sits, and a ghost sits down next to him, because a lot of people have been killed like on this train. So that's why our enforcer is here. And this ghost can change appearances to a lot of things. The ghost calls itself a Fomorian. And that made me really excited, because Fomorians in Irish mythology, they're kind of these monsters. They're kind of like pestilence and just destruction and death and bad. They're kind of like the Greek Titans to the Irish gods. They're like the Titans to the Irish gods. Like they represent all the ills and bad things. But it doesn't exactly mean that here. It's not like this thing is like part of an ancient race and all of that. I felt that there was a little too much world in this story, because the Fomorian also takes on the shape of like a politician in this world. Yeah, I felt like there's a little too much world building trying to be fit into a story that's short. So I was a little like on this one. Soulless City. This is a cyberpunk comic. I thought this was okay. Not bad. Not exactly my thing, but I thought this was fine. Flight of Caged Bird. Sorry. This is about some young lovers that, they're having a good time up at like a makeout point, and then a cop gets them to move along. And then they end up moving to another spot, and then they get attacked by what seems to be a Bigfoot, and then the girlfriend runs away. But by the end of it, she thinks she's been saved by this cop, and it's actually was the cop the entire time, right, in a Bigfoot suit. So yeah, that was fine. King Birdie, this is a drug trip thing where some teenagers just completely demolish a house after they do acid. It's kind of funny. In the end, we have some story prompts, I guess, to just get the creative juices flowing. Those were fine. I will notice that the first Anvil magazine, there was like a paper RPG game at like the end, and that was really cool. There's not one of those in this thing. I hope they bring that back, because I've never like done one of those before Anvil, and like that was neat. There was that. There's also like 2 reviews that were in here. I might check out those books. Like they sounded all right. we'll see. And yeah, that's Anvil 2. I will say, in terms of like small scraps or whatever, there did seem to be some double spacing every now and then in the magazine. It wasn't huge. It wasn't a huge deal, but it is something that I noticed. Like the magazine itself, like really good quality. I really like it. Everything looks great. So there's that, but just like a little weird double spacing. And then on page 99, this is towards the bottom. It is Sarah agreed, slowly rubbing her arms and shoulders. She stared out the windshield. Jack fidgeted in his seat. The sound of insects enveloped them. I'm cold. Jacked, kicked over the engine. So yeah, it should just be Jack. But that was like it. That was like all I saw. The rest of it, very good. Okay, so those are my 2 books. I'm just going to briefly touch on 2 other pieces of media that I did not make a video on. Number 1, this was Nia 7. This is an anime. It's like 13 episodes. I only checked this out because it didn't look like something I would usually check out, but a lot of the people that were behind Technolize and like Hibine Renmei and Serial Experiments Lane, some of them worked on this as well, and I'm like, hopefully it's got a little something that those have. Unfortunately, it did not. I thought this was like one of the shittiest anime I've ever seen. It does nothing well. A lot of the characters are just very annoying. It's like Japanese humor, which I don't think is funny. I just don't really like Japanese humor. I think it's just kind of overdone, and it just doesn't translate very well. But that is 100% skippable. It's like NIEA_7. That's dog shit. The other thing, this was a comic. This is called Headlopper. This is about a guy wandering around with a sword, and he's got a talking head with him. The art style is something that you will like it or you will hate it. I kind of hated it. And the story was just like, okay, some of it was funny here and there, but ultimately not really my thing. It's like, without getting like really heavy into it, it was just kind of like socio-cultural choices the book made, which I did not like, and probably some of the other people watching this would not like that were present in this. And yeah, I read it for free online, so I don't really regret it because I didn't waste any money, but still really didn't like it. And that's kind of it. So yeah, that's it. I will probably not have a video this weekend, as I already said. I'm working on, a couple of longer things, a couple of bigger projects that, hopefully they're going to fire in November. That's what I'm counting on. So probably not another video this week. This is probably just going to be it. But hopefully, check out Citadel, the Seven Swords. Yeah, definitely want to read more about Scarred and his adventures. That's really cool. And Anvil, yeah, I definitely want to see what they'll, keep putting out, volume 3, volume 4, volume 5, just keep rolling it out. I think Aegon, I don't know if this is going to happen, but we're like 6 days away from the 31st. And I think Brendan Hurd said he was going to try to get like in volume 8 out by then. So we'll see if that happens. If it does happen, then I definitely will do a video on like Aegon 7 and 8, just put them together so I don't have to make 2 separate videos. Again, sorry for late upload, but that's going to be it from me. Thanks for watching. Dr. Infinity out.
Yes, you know what it is, don't you, boy? Shall I tell you? It's the least I can do.